Tickle.
Yeah, how's this thing sound out of my mobile pick-em-up truck?
Sounding good over here, Roger.
10-4, yeah, that's that unit I was working on earlier.
10-4. Yeah, it comes out there. I thought it was sandbagger out there.
Yeah, I couldn't hear Sandbagger.
Yeah, I heard Sandbagger out there in a mobile, I think. Classic Radio Roundup, the warm-up.
Hello, Wide from Tickle in the Mobile.
Hello, Tickle. Is that you, Sandbagger, out there in the mobile?
Yeah, looks like it. Yes, sir, I'm out there in the Mobile.
Yes, Tickle, I hear you out there in the mobile. I'm trying to see Sandbagger. I think Sandbagger is out there in the mobile. Let me get back to Sandbagger. He's grassing it. You're close.
I gotta work on this radio. This thing's got no ears. I think I got an SWR problem.
Well, I thought you were out there, Sandbagger, but the local traffic keeps cutting your lips off. How about it, Sandbagger? How about that bagger of sand out there running around? Where are you at? Countywide. Countywide.
You can't hear me out here.
Yeah, I hear you now, but you're grassing it.
Yeah, that's
What are you doing running around in a barefoot mobile 10 minutes before Classic Radio Roundup? I heard you say coming home from something, but you're really grassing it.
We'll be getting closer.
10-4 on the getting closer. Well, let me refresh my coffee cup. The video gate is already rolling, so feel free to use it. 441 countywide radio on this antique flea market junk.
Oh, my God, sandbagger. 10-4. I got you out there, but that's low, Roger.
Hello, Sandbagger. Yeah, 10-4. Yeah, we're considering you're only right down the street from me. 10-4.
Evening, Tim.
Evening, Dave. I'd say you guys in there and say hello. I'll be on the side here.
and then it got quiet.
Wow, I'm still here. You still here?
No, I'm not here.
I'm not here either then. Well, Dave, I'm picking you up out here by Penn Ridge High School.
10-4 to Penn Ridge High School.
Sounded good this way, too.
10-4.
Everybody's going to get their coffee and cookies for the roundup.
That's probably what they're doing, filling themselves up so they can sit there and talk.
Try that again one time.
I said they're probably getting something to eat and they're getting their coffee ready so they can sit there and talk.
10-4. One of these days I'm going to find out who this ham is over here next to the high school.
Countywide. Countywide.
I think you're running a BMW.
What other radio I got? Squeals.
Whatchamacallit does, your multi-omac.
Yeah, I can make that squeal. But nope. 5100 Bravo. 4 glow and glass 6146s.
Yeah, sounded real good, too.
I had a station in Croatia today tell me I sounded like a shortwave broadcaster. Break.
That's good. That's what you want to sound like.
That was way cool, man. I was 10 dB over S9 in Croatia.
Yeah, well, conditions were pretty good today, like they have been in the last few days.
Yeah, they have been pretty good in the last few days, which has been good because I've been giving this BMW a good workout.
Yeah, man. How's this stock mic sounding? Is this all right?
Yeah, it sounds okay. You know, I got this good hi-fi R-274D working the service here.
Yeah, I think this is a radio I put the low-end modification into. I might have a little extended low end on it, so.
It does sound better than a stock mic, but it does sound like a stock mic, just a good one.
Yeah, this is a PRC 465.
This is a Barker and Williamson 5100 Bravo.
Yeah, I knew I was going to be late when I threw a radio in the car, just sitting on my seat.
An actual Class D Citizens Band radio service radio, huh?
Yeah, it is. Probably got the power crank down too, like 3 watts.
Yeah, I guess it's doing all right then. Certainly can't complain about that. I'm hearing you. I heard you way out there.
Yeah, I was just leaving the Joseph Amber Inn in Montgomeryville.
Could you hear me out there?
Oh yeah, I heard you no problem.
Barker and Williamson barefoot.
Yeah, it's working good.
I think somebody else out there in the distance is calling. Who's calling on the roundup?
Hey,
Well, I can hear you. Hello, Skeeter. neighbor. It's all yours.
Right there, countywide. Was that sandbagger you're talking to?
That is our bagger of sand.
That's right. Hey, Roger, what's the 20 on the sandbagging? I'm up here at the lowest weight. The leopard blade or the orange blade.
That's out there pretty far, actually, for a freaking 3-watt radio, Upper Gwynedd. That's out there by where I make steam.
Yeah, not that far. On Broad Street I just crossed.
Yep, that's all right. That's not too shabby. Not too shabby.
Yeah, just on Morris Road, just about ready to go over the turnpike here.
Yep, I know right where you're at. My 60-year-old Hallicrafters R-274D hears you.
You gonna be running the gate tonight?
Gate's been running for 10 minutes.
Oh, I get to hear how crappy I sound in the mobile compared to me being on the base.
Well, hopefully it'll be better crappy. I got a new tablet, but I don't know how it works. We'll have to find out together.
Yeah, well, something new.
It's the same type of tablet, just newer, so maybe it's better. I don't know. I did fool around with some settings in it. This one actually had settings.
Oh, see, yeah, you got a whole brand new tablet. That's cool.
Show you right.
Ah, yeah, this one probably works better.
I'm hoping so. I took the day off. I've been sitting here all day long, playing on 10 meters AM, having a blast.
Oh, so you were dropping the ball all day long, huh?
Well, I had a road test to B&W, so I gave it an all-day test.
And no smoke. That's a good thing.
No, but there is something wrong with my sideband generator, but I'll figure that out eventually.
Yeah, hopefully you do.
Yeah, there's something wrong with it. It don't work. But the rest of the radio is working fine. Before it was the sideband generator worked and the AM didn't work. Now the AM works and the sideband generator don't stick and work. I think we doubled.
Oh, no. My top of the hour announcement there will be, your roundup is officially beginning here. 271115. On your AM dot.
Classic Radio Roundup, Channel 13. Wednesday night. Glowing Glass, the home of Glowing Glass radios.
Well, I even think this one's,
Well, that one's not Glowing Glass, but it's just about a classic mobile, ain't it?
just about. It would have been nice to throw a tube radio in the car, but that would have been awkward.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you just gotta take convenience over classicness.
Yeah, I probably would have noted my cigarette lighter plug.
Yeah, sure, you're right, and that's without even transmitting. Hello, Chuck.
Oh, good evening there. Spitfire.
Spitfire 441 Countywide Radio LLC.
Yeah, it just came up from the other band.
I was on 10 meters AM all day long. I had all of Europe calling me. I must have worked over a dozen stations today. I had a station in Croatia tell me I sounded like a shortwave broadcaster.
Ah, very good.
Barefoot Barker Williamson. You don't need an amp with this thing. It does fine all by itself.
Yeah, I started rag tune with a group that I was affiliated with over 10 years ago on 75 meters.
Well, that's always fun. Catch up with people you hadn't caught up with in a while. Wax a little nostalgia.
Seems really quiet in here tonight. No skip rolling.
That died out a little after sunset. Although yesterday, I think it was about 7:30, I was working a station in Idaho on 10 meters AM.
Was that old guy that runs a Ranger?
Oh, you're taxing me now. It might have been, but I'm not sure. I don't think so. Give me a minute, I could give you his call.
There's a guy always in there when the band's open, and he's out that part of the U.S. I think he's in Idaho. Go ahead. Oh, pretty good. Yourself? Are you home? Oh, pretty good signal. Where are you, Parksburg? Yeah, very good.
W7VT.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Dave in Meridian, Idaho. I was working 2 stations for almost an hour today, and they were both in the island of Jersey. They're in the English Channel, you know.
Like the island contact?
That was just way fun. Two guys in Jersey. One guy was running an R5 vertical, and he was a grasser. And the other guy was running a plain old dipole, and he was doing great. Yeah, but that's on the other side of the UK. That's in between Ireland and England. This is between England and France, closer to France in the English Channel.
And I'm up here on the ridge here by Fairview Village, so I'll be doing pretty well for the moment.
You actually started moving my S meter now. Well, I can hear a lot lower than the S meter starts to move.
Who is that, Bagger?
Yeah, Bagger's out there on a TRC 465 in a Mobile.
Oh, okay.
Completely stocked barefoot Mobile.
Yep, he's completely Class D Citizens Band radio service Mobile.
Yeah, I'm running low power tonight.
Hey, you're running by, you've got your license by rule tonight.
Yeah.
I am FCC approved.
You know, it's kind of cool listening to you out there with that kind of a radio, because that's kind of the way I go when I'm going to work, and I get out here once in a while with my help radio, and, you know, it's running the same kind of power, nothing fancy for an antenna. So I guess that's about how I'm heard.
Yeah, pretty much.
Does better than you would think it would do. Does all right when you got, you know, mobile to base.
Well, it's quiet.
There's the key right there. It's got to be quiet.
I mean, if that skip was still running like it was when we first went to dinner,
Yeah, if the skip was running, forget it. And I got a breaker. Who's calling the Spitfire? Who's calling Spitfire? It's your turn. Go ahead. 441 to Spitfire.
Yeah, Roger, Spitfire. Yeah, Unit 21. How you doing tonight? One-Eyed Jack, over.
Hello, One-Eyed Jack. Doing fine tonight. You're doing fine yourself. Coming in here great. No problem at all. Nice to hear you checking in on Classic Radio Roundup. I'm running this heavy metal boat anchor antique radio transmitter tonight.
Roger, I do have a copy of you, though. But unfortunately, I'm telling you the same time, I have a high QRM level here. Do you copy it? It sounds like you're in a Browning Eagle there, over.
Well, it's not a Browning Eagle, but it is a two-piece radio. It's a Barker and Williamson 5100 Bravo transmitter and a Hallicrafters R-274D receiver.
Roger, yeah. Well, you're giving it that straight-ass floor there, but it sounds like a Browning. It sounds really good, though, over.
10-4 on the sounded good. Well, it is a two-piece radio, and I threw a capacitor in there on the mute line just so it would squeal. And I can lie and say it's a Browning if I want to, Breaker.
Roger that there. Listen, I gotta get going here. I just got a knock here. My grandson is sleeping, and I'm probably just waking him up right now. Listen, good talking with you, Spitfire, and good luck on the radio run-up. I can't stay too much tonight. I gotta get out of here. So 73, and you guys take care now. Ciao, ciao.
All right there, One-Eye Jack. Always good to hear from you. You did make the video gate, so if you want to check it out later, you're on it. Sounding good up here tonight. One-Eye Jack, hey man, take care. Good to hear from you. 441 of Spitfire.
How about it, Spitfire?
Hello, Tickle.
Hello, just checking in from the Mobile over here by Silverdale now.
Damn, you're doing good from up around Silverdale, although that is high ground.
I like that old radio you're on. I like it.
You like the way this antique long glass radio sounds?
Yes, sir.
That makes me feel warm and fuzzy all over.
Oh, sounds nice and crisp over here in Harleysville.
Is that Ken in Harleysville?
Why, yes it is.
Well, hello, Ken in Harleysville. 441 on this heavy metal transmitter.
Hello, Ken. Hello, Tickle. Just coming back from dropping my son off. Ready for all that.
What's that, Bagger?
Well, these traffic lights really suck, man. Noise level generators like you wouldn't believe.
10-4 on the noise level generators. I don't know if you ever noticed the light at Morris Road and Valley Forge Road. The one green light is an LED, and the other green light is a standard incandescent bulb. And when it goes from red to green, the green comes on first, that's the incandescent, and the LED comes on a second later.
Yeah, that light's pretty bad, but I'm trying to think which is the worst one. Geez, there's one worse than that. It's just terrible.
They all make noise.
Some are really bad, bro. Oh my God.
The one coming into Schwenksville at 29 and 73 there on the east side of Schwenksville. That one's a noise generator, and I could tell when the light's going to change.
Oh yeah, that's bad.
What are you heading down towards Collegeville? Collegeville itself is noisy if that's where you're headed.
I'm in the Dallas of Audubon.
Oh, you're going that way. I thought you were coming up Ridge Pike. Not Ridge Pike, Germantown Pike. I thought you would have come up Germantown. But anyway, yeah, I know where you're headed now. You're going to go out on the 4 double deuce.
Well, I'm not going to operate around doing there. I want to go by.
I'm sure he hears you a lot better than I do. I don't know where he is now, but he was in here a little while ago. Hello, Sparky.
Hey, what's going on? Yep, I did hear Bagger a little bit out there. I don't know, Bagger, if he can hear me or not. Sparky waited.
I've been talking with Bagger since he was in Upper Gwynedd.
Oh, good deal. I'm glad to hear you had a good day on 10 meters.
Get audio reports like I'm a shortwave broadcaster. Come on.
$10-4.
Doesn't get much better than that.
You still running the same mic as you were the other day?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
I did some capacitor playing.
Okay, yeah.
to sound better then, less shrill?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah, when you said that, it made my skin crawl like fingers on a blackboard.
Yeah, I didn't mean to insult you, but you know, if I'm sounding crappy, I want to be told about it.
Oh, no, I didn't take it as an insult at all. I took it as I better look at things, because I know you're going to be honest with me, you know. Some people will tell you that you sound good because they don't want to hurt your feelings. I'd rather you spare the feelings and tell me the truth.
Yeah, Operator Ron's pretty good. Yo, Chuck, turn that thing down. Or, yo, turn the mic gain up. I can hardly hear you. Oh, okay, Ron, I didn't realize that.
Well, I did some fooling around, you know. I think I'm nearing in on what I want.
Yeah, I am too with my mobile radio with that mic. I tried a dynamic mic on it, and it sounded like the space shuttle audio, and all nasally in communication. It was like back to the drawing board with that one.
And I actually lowered the idle bias on the modulator current, or I don't know, the modulator bias. I lowered that a little bit. I don't know if that made a difference, but it must have.
Well, you get more drive out of it then.
What, by lowering the bias?
I believe so, yeah.
Well, it calls for, I don't know, what was it? I think 50 milliamps idle current on the modulator. And it turned out, when you told me that, I checked it and it was more like 70 or 80. So I backed that down and it's like between 40 and 50. So I don't know. I guess that must have made a difference.
Well, you figure the bias is cutting it off. And so when it's too high, you know, it's going to restrict the output of the components.
Yeah, right now it's actually creeped up a little. My modulator idle current sitting at 60 milliamps, but that's closer to where it's supposed to be. Can't believe my biggest problem was that stupid Jones plug. That thing was making me crazy. It was actually making all kinds of other problems. Like it was, you know, it was like it's hard to pinpoint it because I was seeing like multiple problems. Like, well, what is the actual problem?
Oh, yeah.
Damn high voltage was going everywhere but where it was supposed to. But enough was going to where it was supposed to that, you know, like, okay, what's going on here? But it's been on for, the radio's been on for 12 hours now, so I think it passed the test.
And you got it all burned in. That's good.
Spitfire, you running the gate?
And you know that.
Alright, 10-4 man just cruising on this old Golden Eagle Mark III.
I worked a guy on 10 meters AM today. Where was he? KE7KK in Rapid City, South Dakota. He was on a Browning S9.
He had his ping turned off there, right?
He was using something else for a receiver because he said he didn't convert the receiver yet, but he was using a Browning S9 transmitter at 4 watts. I don't have any trouble hearing him.
No amplifier?
He says no amplifier, nope, and 3-element Yagi.
Wow, not too shabby.
Yeah, when he said what he was using, I said, what? A Browning S9 at 4 watts? Well, I'm hearing you a lot better than I would expect out here on 4 watts. But then again, Franco out there in Italy, that's all he runs, and I hear him all the time.
And I was poking around in my radio dungeon where I store all my my gear that I've collected over the years. I happened to look over at my Johnson Whiteface, and I'll be darned if that thing doesn't have a Channel 13 crystal on it.
There you go. I've been looking at my Blackface Johnson and thinking about putting that on 10 meters.
Black and white issue. Hey, operator Ron?
Yeah, I did something stupid. I switched radios, and I come back out to watch the freaking TV. I'm like, man, it's awful quiet for freaking 20 after. I never turned the switch to the right antenna.
That'll do it.
Coolest microphone out here in the kitchen.
I was listening to 2 meters for 2 days. It was really quiet. And just like you, Ron, I didn't have the antenna hooked up.
Yeah, where's all the activity? Oh, no antenna. Go ahead there, Tickle. You might want to back off that mic a little. You're overmodulating.
Alright, how about now?
I don't know. Better.
Well, we sick of Randy on you.
Still too much?
I think you're all right now.
Alright, how about now?
There you are.
I hear you, Tickle. It could probably come up a bit.
I forgot I left my RF output turned down.
There you are.
Okay, check. Audio check.
Evening there, Tickle.
Evening there, Skeeter.
See anybody make it on 422 yet? Yeah, look at all the pretty Christmas lights. Dave, where are you at now? I guess you're over the Oaks Hill? Oh, yeah, I'm up halfway between 29 and Royersford. 4. I got a lot of noise in my radio today. I don't know why. But, yeah, I heard you out there.
Don't feel bad.
Well, there's a lot of noise around. I drive from some areas it's dead quiet, other areas it's so noisy I can barely hear anybody.
Skeeter.
Right back there, Tickle.
I got me an interview coming up next Tuesday.
Where I work?
No, PennDOT.
Well, if you got an interview, then they'll probably hire you.
Yeah? Is that what it is? You get an interview, you're basically hired?
Well, if they want to talk to you, they must have some kind of interest. PennDOT takes anybody. What are you saying, dear 44?
All you gotta do is have a pulse.
Easy, Skeeter. Easy, King County Wide, Sandbagger, Operator Ron, Chuck, let's see, Tickle. Whoever else is out there.
Hello, quarter wave Dave.
Way to dash his hopes there, Dave.
I was gonna say, Dave, you almost forgot about the guy your bus put stones on.
What do you mean?
You said don't take anybody. What's that saying about me?
Well, as long as you know how to lead on the show. What do you say?
Plowing snow?
That's gonna be part of it, I guess.
Hey, Bagger,
Well,
what did you say something about Randy?
well, so we'll have to stick Randy on him there. He's our resident overmodulation nanny.
Yeah, you talking about Randy from the ham radio?
Yeah, he's from Dopey's Forum.
Okay.
Speaking of ham radio, Ron, does anybody out there know who the guy
He's a big contester.
Where is he, Tickle? If you're going down 5th Street through Percy, literally, he's right at the bottom of Penridge High School property.
Yeah, that's a big contest station. I don't remember his call sign, though.
Man, he's got Yankee-style antennas out the wazoo.
Is that Doug?
No, Doug is in Hatfield.
Ah, okay. Bagger's getting close. Yeah, I'm getting close.
Right in my backyard, Bagger. Hello, radio.
What up, Skeeter?
Don't need the extra power.
Oh, Sparky?
I'm in there. That was Ron a second ago.
Oh, how about you? What's going on?
Got my Maverick swinging tonight.
Yeah, I'm out on the classic, but oh well. I want a lounge, you know, so I'll just sit there in my old chair and listen to these guys jib-jab.
But you are participating on Classic Radio Roundup 27115, Channel 13 on the AM radio dial. Brought to you this week by the 05 Technical Institute, specializing in things that will self-destruct. If you can't blow it up, we will.
That's right. Hey there, Sparky.
What's going on, Pretty Boy? Everybody's sounding good tonight. Good conditions.
That's not a Mark III, Sparky.
No, it's a Mark III SSB.
And you got your Echo Master mic hooked to it?
There's a chance there might be some compression going on in there.
Yeah, that's a sacrilege running an Echo mic on a Echo? I did, and it blew up my Echo Master.
Oh, it couldn't handle that 110 volt switching? Is that what they did?
That's a sacrilege running an Echo mic on a Browning. Shame on you.
That's right. How do you do the voodoo you do? There's a breaker in there.
Yeah, Baker.
I heard him say Classic Radio Roundup. I don't know who he was.
It's Shadow out in Parksburg. He's a base station. Evening time, Shadow. Yeah, I was just tuning you in. I did have you in there. Oh, there you go.
Hello, Shadow, countywide radio. I haven't heard you in a while there, Shadow. Good to hear you. Take care, my friend. 441 on the Classic Radio Roundup. Countywide, countywide.
You gotta be passing my exit by now. That's in the past.
Came by and going past.
Well, we're at warp speed right now. Maybe it's getting out better on the backside. You got a stronger single. Well, where's your beam point?
I got it pointed to the southeast, but I'm on the stick right now. The ground plane.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, you know, anything's possible with this weird car.
Is it mostly plastic, like the number 7 mobile?
Oh, there's a bit of plastic in it, but most of the metal's in the front of the car, so I would think that my strongest signal would be towards the front, but...
Yeah, I don't know. Seems like it's getting out better this way.
I'm probably bouncing off the car in front of me and going backwards. Little monkey batting.
Maybe you put your magnet mount on the hood.
Yeah, this isn't a magnet mount, though.
Oh, what'd you put on for an antenna?
I put a big...
Put that on the trunk?
No, I
There.
same mount, so it works.
Show you right.
Operator, what are you doing down there? Watching TV.
Watching TV on Classic Radio Roundup night?
Oh, that's a fact.
Yeah, I'm with my cordless microphone watching TV. Talking to you guys.
Oh, multitasking.
That's kind of like cheating, operator. I'm up. Yeah, me going across the airwaves.
Yeah, we're on the video gate. Oh, not video.
Oh yeah, it's a video gate. You get to watch the S-meter.
Yeah, buddy.
Show you right.
What's going on, Ken? Oh, nothing much. Just sitting back listening.
Man, Classic Radio Roundup.
27115 on the AM radio dial.
What'd you just do?
What did who do? Voodoo?
You went from a 3 to a 9.
I didn't do anything. I didn't change a daggone nothing.
Ah, must be my meter then.
He's riding my carrier.
I broke your needle loose. Didn't you know the bigger the radio, the heavier the signal throw?
Yeah, some of that defect.
That's all them pounders.
That's right, I got lots of pounds.
Yep, and the walnut veneer, man, that helps with the SWR.
My heavy metal 150-pound radio is throwing some pounds.
Yeah, it's called throwing your weight around.
Hey, Tickle, you still in here?
Yes, sir.
I have a question for your other half.
Well, she's upstairs with the girls right now. I could have her get on in a little while.
Well, maybe you can answer this question. She's still watching Sons of Anarchy, right?
I think she finished up to everything that she could till the new seasons come out on Netflix.
So she's probably at the end of 6, right?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay. Well, when you find out, let me know.
Yeah, I know.
Even though I'm having butterflies about wanting to tell her, but I know that would be cheating.
Yeah,
flash all the way through.
Is that my radio, or is he hesitating when he's talking?
Who hesitate?
The one you're talking to, I forget his handle again.
That's Ken.
Yeah, it seems like from over this point, he's when he comes in there, he's.
I didn't notice it, but maybe.
Yeah. I had some cool propagation happen to me this morning when I was talking on 10 meters AM. Things were kind of normal, and all of a sudden the band sort of shifted. It did something, and like the signals were up and down, but it added echo. It added echo to my signal, and it added echo to the signal to the guy I was talking about. Because I asked him, I said, "Do you notice a change?" He says, "Yeah." So I don't know what that was all about, but that was pretty cool.
Echo. Without echo. I think that's when it goes around the globe. It goes one way and goes the other way at the same time and meets up in the middle.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but it was cool sounding. It's like echo without adding echo. Like echo for free.
Hey, I've been hearing that. That's been going on for a couple of days now.
Yeah, but I mean, it was right in the middle of a conversation. You know, things were sounding normal, and then they changed.
Yeah, one to two for a couple of days now. I thought it was my radio. Here it's what you're exactly talking about.
Yeah, that was neat. That was some sort of propagation phenomenon. Backscatter, multipath, around the world twice. I don't know, but it was cool.
Yeah, probably multipath.
Things were all normal, though, Chuck. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you're normal. Everything sounds good. Little QSB, this and that. And then, like, the signals took a drop, and they stayed there for, like, a couple exchanges. Like, not much in a way signal, but we both could hear each other. And then things came back, but when they came back, we both had echo on our signals.
You know, I've been hearing that from the locals when I check into the net on 10.
Yeah, backscatter. I can hear, like, K1, what's that, IUD, and K1, KW, and K2. What the heck was the K2? Anyway, I've been hearing all these guys in like all along the East Coast that I can't normally hear, but I've been hearing them all on backscatter. I heard a W4 this morning. He was coming out of the Carolinas. All these backscatter stations. That's kind of cool. Then about 10 o'clock this morning, I heard a Missouri station. He was coming in 10 over 9 in the back of my antenna. I swung the antenna around and he was coming in S8. He was coming in better on backscatter than pointing my antenna at him.
That's what makes radio fun. Working long path and short path at the same time.
It certainly does make it fun when you're able to get in there every day and talk to the sort of the same stations in the same places, and you know, you can really compare day to day what's going on. And then when you're in the middle of talking and things change, you know, and just change for the weird, not necessarily get stronger or drop out, but just get weird. On Classic Radio Roundup, we're Glowing Glasses King.
Yeah.
I'm still here in that Class D Citizens Band radio service that is licensed by rule.
Yes, licensed by rule. I'm about to go up my hill here, so you probably hear me slightly better.
I figured you were getting close, but I wanted to let you know it probably at just about the worst place. I can still hear you.
Yeah, well, I'm climbing my hill now. We're trucking up the Dugville Hill, so it should be getting better.
Yep, slightly better.
Yeah, I'm almost at the top. So I'm going to back this thing into the garage, and I'll probably be on the base in a little bit.
on Classic Radio Roundup, Channel 13. And I need a new refill on my glass. New coffee cup on this side. 441 on this heavy metal antique radio transmitter.
Where's the night train? Well, maybe he'll come in for the second half. I guess he's busy painting. What rig are you running over there, Skeeter? I know it's a Browning. That's which one? It's the old Mark III. Yeah, they're full of modulation, aren't they? Oh, yeah. Audacious audio. I had a guy down here in Williamson Bridge. I don't know if he's got his ears on out there or not. But I hope he tuned into the roundup tonight. Copy that. What's his handle? He didn't say. He just mentioned something on Facebook, and I told him we'd be on here Wednesday nights. I don't know if he is, but we'll try it. How about it out there around South Jersey? Hello, out there, no voice operator Scooter got you. I have a hard time hearing you up here. It's not you, it's just my location. Right, I got some of that. Operator, what did he say? Sometimes I can pull you in there, no voice, but tonight I got something running in the neighborhood that's, I don't know what it is, but, got little bits and pieces of it, but hello out there, no voice. Whoops. Did anybody pass that file along? Can't quite make him out up here tonight. Something rumbling in my receive. Yeah. On the Classic Radio Roundup. Tickle, you still in there? I forgot to ask him what rig he was running. Ron, if you could rig that microphone up to that Cobra 1000, you'd have something there, wouldn't you? looked into that, hooking that microphone up to a regular radio. You'd have to adapt it with a power supply, that little box. Well, I guess everybody paused for a little break there or something. I don't know what happened. That's cool, man. I'm just ghost talking. Checking my frequency here. That's all. I got rid of my little microwave cart full of radios, and now I got no place to put my feet up. Five-gallon bucket makes a good stand. I usually put my feet up on a shelf, but I can't really quite do it on this new one here. I got a big giant shelf in here now. That's cool. That's what I did today. I looked at pictures of radio shacks, guys' shacks, ham shacks, racks and stacks of racks of transmitters. I like when you come across the guy with the Brownings and he's got about 300 of them. That is just crazy. Yeah, I think he has a Browning fetish. Hey, well, maybe he's listening on Spew Radio right now. Or can catch us on the Classic Radio Roundup Video Gate. Get to see how you sound on one of these old rigs. Good evening, gentlemen. Oh, look who checked in. Hello out there, everybody. Hey, the night train. Evening, Dave. Evening, Skeeter. Evening, Sparky. I don't know who else is there. I think there's a bunch of folks out there. Is this Classic Radio Roundup? It is, but I think everybody went to refill their cup and got a snack. All right, Roger. Well, the train is signing on.
Hello there, night train.
Is that you, Ken?
Why, yes it is.
Well, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing just peachy.
Good. Yeah, I just got in from a hard, long day, man. I had to look at a job on the way home.
Hello, Night Train, Countywide Radio 441.
Well, hello, Countywide. Yeah, I was wondering where you were. You were back. I didn't hear y'all voices. I just turned it on and kind of warming it up a little bit.
I was stepping out to refresh the coffee cup, but I am indeed here on glow-on-glass filaments with high-level plate modulation push-pull audio breaker.
That mean you on your phone, right?
Nope, try again.
I don't know who else is push-pull. Is Regency push-pull?
Regency Imperial is indeed push-pull, but this is not it.
Parker Williamson.
Pair of 6146s in push-pull, modulating a pair of 6146s in high-level plate.
Oh yeah, doing a fine job indeed.
This thing does a friggin' 100 watts of carrier. I can't believe it. I don't know where it gets its power from, but it does 100 watts of carrier, and it swings up to over 300 watts.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nah, not bad at all for a barefoot radio, huh?
So which radio is it?
My Barker and Williamson 5100B in the 4.5 foot rack.
Yeah. Oh, hello there, Barker. So that means you got the Barker and Williamson back working?
Yes, I indeed do. I had reports from Europe today that I sound like a broadcast shortwave transmitter. Come on.
You gotta say, Roger, look out, y'all, man. We're gonna be hearing about that Barker and Williamson. That's right.
Hey, it was no easy task. It's no easy task keeping a 65-year-old transmitter on the air.
Needs lots of tender loving care.
High voltage will go everywhere but where it's supposed to go.
I was gonna say, that's a high maintenance radio.
I think I got them all nailed down now. I really think I do, but you never know. You just never know. But you're right. For the 2 years I've had it, it's been high maintenance. But maybe it'll do me better in the next 2 years since I attacked all kinds of stuff.
You gotta buy it a ring. It must be female.
Yeah, but when it's working, it's working.
But when it's not, it's not.
Well, I really sort of believe that disceramic capacitor shorted the ground when I electrocuted myself. So some of the problems have been self-inflicted.
Yeah, you got electrocuted by your own radio, and you blew it up in the process.
Yeah, but it's back in fine style.
You know, that actually qualifies you for an official 05 award.
What's that, blowing it up and electrocuting myself all in one swoop?
Yeah. I mean, that's like the final exam at the 05 Institute of Technical Excellence. Yeah, special honors.
I did my thesis in electrocution. Does that mean I graduate with a doctorate in the 05 Electrical Institute?
Absolutely. You get the highest honors that are, well, I don't know. Now, you could probably do worse. I mean, you could have burnt your house down, too. That would have been a doctorate instantly.
Well, I did zorch the high voltage transformer and filled the house with smoke, so, I mean, that'll be worth extra credit.
Yeah, there you go.
Summa cum laude, 05 Technical Institute.
There you go. Yes, we don't mess around at the 05 Technical Institute, because our motto is, if you can build it, we can blow it up.
Is that the Galaxy?
Yes, it is. On the D104.
Damn, you'd be pleased with the way that sounds coming in over my Hallicrafters R-274D. Oh, and by the way, I had a guy in Wales, he was drooling all over my receiver. He says, I can't believe you have that. They're so rare. I can't believe you have that.
Yeah. It's nice when people drool over your radios.
And that guy I was talking to out in South Dakota today on the Browning S9, he says, I got all kinds of transmitters known to man, Rangers and Valiants and Collins and I think I don't know, a couple others he had said, Gonsets. He says, I can never get a hold of a Barker and Williamson, and I can't afford to ship it.
I gotta say, it's nice when they drool all over your radios. It's even nicer when they offer you exuberant amounts of money for it.
This radio is money in the bank. It'll never be worth less.
No, it won't.
Unless, of course, it's blowing up. But, I mean, operational. As long as I can keep it operational, it'll never be worth less.
I think it was a mouse motel.
Oh, my God. Yeah, no, I tell people, I says, this thing was so close to becoming landfill.
We got a multi-LMAC on eBay for sale.
Pick it up, man. Pick it up. I always get great reports on my multi-LMAC.
Hey, Night Train.
Yeah, go ahead, Sparky.
I just wanted to mention there was a hand-wired 201A or 201D201 hand-wired for cameraman. He wanted to know if and when, if we saw one.
And those multi-LMACs are easy to work on.
I told him about it. He said it was above his price range. I told him, go for it.
Yeah, it was there. That was it.
Yeah, I told him, I wouldn't let an extra $100 stop me.
That's right, because you want it.
I want it. I want it now.
That's right.
I gotta have it. I want it.
And the thing of it is, the next time you see one, it'll probably be 9 months from now.
Yeah, it cost $100 more.
Sometimes you have to seize an opportunity and just make the sacrifice or pay the consequences.
Once the crying's all done, where's the radio gonna be?
There was one that sold a couple of weeks ago for like $90 or something. A hand-wired one.
Hey, my Barker at Williamson was hand-wired.
Yeah, you was hand-wired too. I heard about that thing.
Yeah, emphasis on the hand.
I tell you what, my fire chicken got me one time, man. I don't ever want to feel that feeling no more.
I actually have the video gate of that electrocution incident. And then since the radio is back on the air, I may just upload it. I don't know. I mean, you know, if I can't humiliate myself, who can I humiliate?
Hey, you never know. That video might go viral. Then you'll be doing the morning talk show circuit.
Yeah, look at this moron.
Hey, we'll contact you about doing a show, the 05 show, on their weekly net.
What not to do when high voltage is What not to do when high voltage is around. Do not place your fingers thus.
Film at 11.
Hey, Skeeter, where are you? Skeeter got off of that griddle. He had himself a little experience lately.
Oh, so I'm not alone.
Oh, you're not alone.
No, you're not alone.
Absolutely not.
Dude, that was 635 volts.
I got zapped with 800 when I was 15.
Yeah, I think I got 9.
Well, I know I got nailed with 2000 on that 4CX250B UHF amp that I used to have. That thing nailed me, and that was 2K.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're still alive.
To be honest, I thought I was dead. I was stuck on that thing. I could not let go. And like, you know, you have these rapid thoughts going through your head, you know, in microseconds. And I thought, if I don't throw myself off of this thing, I'm dead. So I took all I could muster and threw myself off of it and wound up across the room, but I was away from it. My hand literally grabbed it and I could not let go.
Yeah, that devil will be trying to kill you.
I literally had to just throw myself off of it to get away from it. Like, just throw my body to make my hand, you know, rip away from it.
Yeah, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to experience that either.
I sold that amplifier.
Yeah, let it kill somebody else.
Skeeter dropped his off at somebody else's feet. I laid that golden fiddle down at Johnny's feet.
I got rid of that turkey, man. That was 1,015 volts, he said.
Well, I'll tell you, 635 DC will light up your life.
Anything over 300.
100.
Heck, 50 volts will make you go, eh.
Yeah, but you just get mad at that. But any of them plate voltages, any of them.
4K.
The highest one I ever got nailed with was 2K.
I've been hit with a neon transformer at 15,000 volt at 30 milliamp.
Even that's uncomfortable, even though you didn't have a whole lot of current. That's miserable.
Well, if you want to go that, I got nailed with spark plug wires. You know, that's 15 or 20K.
Yeah, a lawnmower got me.
I think all of us that grew up in the 70s got nailed with a lawnmower spark plug.
Oh, definitely more than once.
Yeah, there's a feeling that goes with that.
Classic Radio Roundup. It's a shocking experience.
Yeah, jolt.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to hook up no radio for tonight, y'all, so y'all gonna have to deal with the Browning tonight.
Dude, I've been looking forward to this since Saturday when I got this thing working.
When I found out you were going to run it tonight, I figured I got to break out the hi-fi.
Yeah, it sounds good. Apparently, I got hi-fi in the transmit department, too. Sounding like a shortwave broadcaster at 441.
Bagger, he cheated.
He cheated?
Yeah.
How did he cheat?
No, you.
I cheated.
Yeah, when he heard you was coming out with the Barker Williamson, he ran and he got his, he ran and got a non-classic radio and threw a D104 on there to make him feel better about it.
He just likes the way he sounds.
That's right. This was a interesting project, and I like the way it worked out.
It does sound nice, man.
Yeah, that sounds like $1 million. It's like I tell my European buddies on 10 a.m. Sounds like you're sitting in the room with me.
That's really the ultimate goal.
Full-bodied and warm.
You know, people didn't play around with audio like we do these days, man. Back in the day, everybody just ran their radios. They were more interested in power than anything. But this channel right here is definitely audio-orientated.
All it takes is a pair of high-level plate push-pull modulation.
Incidentally, I heard you last week on your Metro Tech, man. I just was too tired to key up, man. I was in bad shape.
Yeah, I did indeed run the Metric Tech last week. It had been a while.
I was sandbagging on you guys.
Oh, you heard us calling for the train.
I can't remember what I heard and didn't hear. When I knew anything, though, I was asleep, and I didn't even know that. Yeah, I was working pretty hard, man. Lately I had a run, and it was like, well, you know, you got to make hay when the sun shines.
Well, to refresh your memory, you can always review the video gate on YouTube. Just search for Classic Radio Roundup.
Hey, countywide.
Countywide.
On American Pickers tonight, it's a new show, and this guy has nothing but BSEs and all those British bikes.
You know I love BSA. I got my BSA pictures up on my QRZ bio page, and I love talking to them Brits because they'll spot those beezers, and then we're off and talking.
Yeah, watch this show right here, you might get some parts for it. He has a lot of BSE stuff there. It's a brand new show for tonight.
I'm really in good shape, don't need much of nothing.
Oh, no.
I'm sure they want too much money.
Well, what about that guy that sent you on that little wild goose chase saying that he had a frame that was new old stock?
I can't get over how quiet it is out there tonight.
Yeah, I thought something was wrong with my radio.
I was just hanging back to see if somebody would say that.
It was really Dave's duty to say, "Hey, guy, quiet."
Yeah, we're 44 slipping.
I think 44 be watching TV.
And when it's quiet, this Hallicrafters receiver is quiet.
That's what I like about my sonar. That's got a really nice quiet receiver in it.
Yeah, it does. So does that Cobra 98.
Greg, I didn't even know you owned a sonar.
Yeah, I got one given to me.
Bagger's got a sonar and I got a sonar. Sonars are populating the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to hear you on that one day.
I was on it last week. It was off of KC though in frequency, but I fixed that. Now I put a trimmer on the crystal so I can get right back on frequency.
I traded mine for an Amphenol plug.
All right, you got an Amphenol, you got a sonar because you let go an Amphenol plug.
That's a 10-4, and I'd have to do nothing but replace a couple of tubes.
I had to replace the final. Mine was shot.
Well, maybe we can have a sonar night. I haven't ran mine in quite a little while. It's sitting over here.
That's a good idea. I got a Model G. I was going to run mine tonight, but I didn't get home till late.
Way before, right around the time before Classic Radio Roundup actually got started, I had a Model E. I never could quite get it working right.
You guys doubled. What did you say, Pete?
Right before Classic Radio Roundup got started, I had a Model E. Crystal controlled like 6 or 8 channels, no S meter, but I can never quite get it working right.
Yeah, that's a shame.
I probably would have tried harder now, but I let it go on eBay and bought something else back then.
Sounds like we got a problem back here.
It's after 9 o'clock. $27,115 on your AM radio dial.
Where plate modulation rocks.
Yeah, and I got my monitor scope going, so I get fixated on watching my O-scope.
Yeah, we should take this chance to tune. And tune we did.
Oh, look at that nice modulation. Perfect waveform.
Yeah, proper modulation. It would be like Howard Stern's dad. Make sure you tune for proper modulation.
Yeah, but watch what this thing can do. Hello, radio 441 on my big old antique radio transmitter. 441, break, break, break.
Funny thing is, it doesn't get screaming loud. You know, you can hear the gain going up, but it's still clean.
Yep, that's right.
I just like that radio.
I know, it is cool, ain't it?
It's not really a CB, though. Yeah, it predates the CB band.
Has 11 meters right in it.
Well, yeah, but then again, is this actually considered a CB at all? Not in any way, shape, or form.
It is in no way considered a CB, but It was manufactured when 11 meters when it was an amateur radio band.
Hello out there, Tickle. When did you get in there?
Just a minute or so ago, we were putting the girls down to bed.
10-4.
Little light on power tonight, but on a different radio.
Oh, you're fine over here, man.
And I'm barefoot. Well, as barefoot as this radio can be.
As long as you're not pregnant, too.
Yeah, I got 6 pounds on you.
Pregnant and barefoot, all you need to do now is cook dinner.
Yeah.
Pickles and ice cream.
Who is that?
Who is who? Me?
And yell at me for putting the toilet paper roll on backwards.
Oh my God, that tries to open the
What did you say, Ken?
I said pickles and ice cream.
Ah, man, that's awful. Whenever a girl says if she wants pickles and ice cream, then look for a baby.
Run. Run as fast as you can. Run, Forrest, run.
Tickle, are you on the comics? Maybe. Okay. Am I getting some feedback issues? I'll step back in there in a second. Skeeter, did you get that Connex?
No, he kind of backed out of the deal, and I haven't heard from him again.
Connex, what is it, 33, 43, whatever?
It was a 3300, but, yeah, he disappeared. Specifications are subject to change. Terms and conditions may apply.
Show you right.
And for printed copies, please write Classic Radio Roundup, P.O. Box 1, Pottstown, Pennsylvania.
19464.
Check state and local listings for laws that may or may not apply in your jurisdiction.
Yeah, make sure to leave photos with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on about each one.
And Big Marty really does sell carpet cheaper.
And Crazy Eddie's prices are insane.
Oh, no.
Take the wheel of your automobile and drive on down to Ideal.
Who's crazy? Who is this thinking that same commercial?
I can still picture that stupid commercial. I only couldn't have been but 6 when that thing was on.
If you got a passion for fashion.
I remember one from Kratz Brothers. I gotta bring up my carrier.
Oh yeah, Crash Brothers. What is that, clothing for the stars?
It's causing my feedback. Sorry, yeah, Kratz Brothers. What was it? You're crazy if you didn't buy your clothes from Kratz Brothers?
Yeah, wasn't it clothing for the stars or something? Yeah, Crash Brothers. Oh my goodness, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, we had a pile of it right there.
Don't!
You didn't buy your clothes from Kratz Brothers men's store? You turned my stomach.
They had a bunch of them like that.
You know, one of those guys died, had a tragic death.
Yeah, this got a guy that used to do the commercials.
I can't remember what happened to him, though.
Yeah, he did die, though.
Yeah, he died dead.
He died dead. Yeah, better off dead.
He bought a new car.
Quit talking about him. He's dead. He's dead. He's buried. Quit talking about him.
He's dead, Jim.
I can't remember how he died, but something happened.
Murdered by death.
They killed Kenny!
Oh, no! I heard he died up on the Reedman Auto Mile.
How'd he die, Sparky?
He was test driving a Jaguar on the Reedman Auto Mile, and he wrecked back there on their little closed circuit course.
Oh, man.
Their wholesale cars up there anymore. And I totally made that up.
Oh, man, that's awful, Sparky.
Yes, you too can make up news.
They actually do have a closed course up on the backside of the top of the hill that they used to put their wholesale cars in now.
If you heard it, it must be true. Especially if they came from Citizens Band Radio.
Or the internet.
If it's true, you heard it on Spew.
That's right.
Spew Radio, live, worldwide.
Sandbagger.
Yes?
What was that operator's name on the last end?
Oh, you mean Lily Tomlin?
Thank you, Lily Tomlin.
10-4. I liked it, her.
Dingy.
1 ringy diggy, 2 ringy diggy. Oh, 3 ringy diggy. Hello, hello, are we connected?
Is this the party to whom I am speaking?
This must be the place. I don't see any other place around.
That's it. Thank you, Bagger. Lily Tomlin.
Yeah, I like her little skits with the switchboard. And the little German guy, too.
Yeah. Her and the switchboard were great.
Her little operator stick.
Was it the little German guy?
Who, Artie Johnson?
Artie Johnson, yeah.
Yeah, he used to be fresh, and then Ruth Buzzy would whack him with the umbrella.
Yeah, Ruth Buzzy was dressed as the old lady, and she'd, come cruising through and beat him up with a pocketbook or umbrella, whatever she had.
Very interesting.
But not funny.
Classic television comedy skits.
And of course, there's Hee-Haw.
Is this the party to whom I am speaking?
Yeah, I knew it wasn't Ruth Buzzy. Ruth Buzzy was the old lady who beat up on Artie Johnson.
That's right. He'd say something fresh to her, and she'd smack him one.
The funny thing is, she was young then, but she could dress up like an old lady good.
I know, that's what I say. It's like, I'm thinking she's pretty old, 'cause she looked like an old lady, and it's like 30 years later, it's like, my God, she's still there. She didn't get any older.
No, she almost never changed.
She actually looked better when she got older.
Yeah, she was just always old looking.
You remember I showed it come on similar to last end, but it was supposed to be on an hour, and they only played a half hour of it and cut it off the air?
Only once?
Yeah, one time, and they cut it off the air.
I guess I don't remember it, because it only happened once.
How about Love American Style?
That was like a sitcom or something.
Yeah, you remember that show, though, Love American Style?
Yeah, I remember it.
That was around the same time as Love Boat was on.
I'll bet you can find that on YouTube.
The Love Boat.
You can find anything on YouTube.
Yeah, pretty much everything is on YouTube. Speaking of which, my friend in Wales turned me on to a great TV show, so if you're interested, it's called Only Fools and Horses. It's freaking hilarious.
Was it one of those British produced shows?
Yeah, I just brought it up one day that I told him I love British sitcoms. I like watching Fawlty Towers and Monty Python and Are You Being Served? And he goes, I got a few more for you. He says, Dad's Army, and I've seen that one before. That's pretty funny, Dad's Army. He tells me about Only Fools and Horses. I never heard of that one. And another one he told me about was The Good Life. I haven't gotten to The Good Life yet, but Only Fools and Horses is freaking hilarious.
Red Dwarf.
Say what?
A show called Red Dwarf.
You're too loud. I think you said Red Dwarf.
Yes, Red Dwarf.
Well, right now I'm kind of stuck on only Fools and Horses.
Yeah, there's only so much TV you can watch.
Yeah, there's only so many hours in a day.
Yeah, considering you got to spend a certain percentage of it working.
And another percentage on 10 meters AM.
Well, Red Dwarf is more of a comedy than a sitcom.
I'm serious. Check out Only Fools and Horses. It's two brothers and a grandfather, and the one brother is always trying to make something out of nothing, kind of thing. They get into some sticky situations.
Well, he's trying to be somebody that he's not.
No, he's definitely not trying to be somebody he's not. He's a scam artist, and he's always trying to be one, which he is.
Another good British comedy, The Young Ones.
Oh, I remember that.
The East Enders. But still, my all-time favorite is Are You Being Served? If you've never seen it, check it out.
I've seen bits and pieces of it. I don't know that I've actually sat and watched a whole bunch of it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's worth a watch.
Bless Me Father is another one.
Say that again, Ken?
I said, Bless Me Father is another one.
Bless Me Father. Never heard of that one.
Bless me, Father, for I have sinned.
Well, that's more of a sitcom than comedy. It's comedy slash sitcom kind of thing going on.
Yeah, you could back off your modulation too. You're flat topping.
It's squealing.
Does he have echo turn on?
It's so loud that it becomes unintelligible. So if you could back it down some, you'll still be loud, but I'll be able to actually understand you.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Much better.
Yeah, we don't need no damn echo.
What's with them people? I hear you good, Ken, man. Everybody does sound good tonight, man. The audio's coming across. There's no noise, no skip. You know, sounding good in my receipt.
Well, maybe it's me with these big giant Sony speakers coming out of this, glowing glass radio receiver that's just blowing me out of my chair. I feel like the guy in that Bose speaker commercial.
Yeah, we don't need any stinking echo.
No, echo. We don't need none.
I don't have any echo, just a squeal.
Yeah, you sound all chargered up.
How high can I go on this audio pod, Rager?
Well, you start to get a hum in there.
Really? Is that what's showing on my scope?
Yep.
120 hertz.
Hum like you got a fish tank or something in the background.
Well, where would that be coming from?
Something that's humming.
Well, no kidding.
And it's humming because it doesn't know the words.
Seriously, though, what would that actually be coming from? Let's see if I can... There we go. Now it's... You should not hear nothing now.
I still hear it, it just got lower.
Yeah, but where's that coming from? I got all brand new capacitors in there.
It's probably not coming from the radio. It's probably either picking up something in the air nearby, like a fluorescent lamp, or it's a ground loop.
Oh hell. Well, anyway, just indulge me for a second. What happens if I turn that thing all the way up?
The hum gets louder, and so do you.
All right. Let me try something else here. Hang on a second. All right. Do you hear the hum now?
It's gotten proportionally less.
Like really pretty less, right?
Your mod's got as less as what the hum got.
Yeah. Now I'm looking for my screwdriver though that I lost.
Oh no, just don't touch the plate caps with the screwdriver.
All right. What does that do for me?
I I don't know. You sound clean.
Well, if more is good, how about more?
You still got that hum in the background.
Yeah, but hang on. Let's see if I can balance this out. Hum is there and or not there and I'm loud?
What are you doing? Turning the mic up and turning the gain in the radio down?
Big 10-4, buddy.
Yeah, that'll do that, because I have the same issue with my tram. I crank the mic gain up and there's a hum that comes in, but if I crank the mic up and the gain down, then the hum doesn't follow it because it's a ground loop.
Yep, that fixed it.
So anyway, I'm looking for loud and clear and no hum. How am I doing?
You're probably as good as you're going to get right now.
So any more is not gonna not doing it. That's too much of the all knobs to the right crowd if I give it more.
Yeah, you're clean and you're not overly loud. I think even Randy would approve.
10-4 on the Randy approving. Well, that makes my watt meter go even higher.
Lots and lots and lots of watts.
I'm still trying to figure out how this whole Class C amplifier, high-level plate modulation thing makes more power than should be actually there.
Oh, you mean the B&W itself?
Yeah. How is this thing making 400 watts peak power?
I don't know. Maybe the same magic is at work that says, that the guys that say they can get 450 watts out of a 2-pill.
Well, it dead keys 100 watts. No meter shows 400 watts, but I do have, the proper 4-to-1 ratio on my O-scope when I modulate, and there's no flat topping right at the moment.
Well, if it's high level, any level. If you got that carrier set for 2 gradicules on the scope and it goes to 4 gradicules, and that's twice the voltage, which is 6 dB or 4 times the power. So that's 400 watts.
Yeah, but how is it doing that? But that's exactly what I see on the O-scope. 2 going to 4. But my watt meter shows 100, and when I whistle, it may show 240 or so.
Well, the meter isn't capable of showing the peak. It's not an accurate peak reading meter.
All right, I guess the better question is how does 4 6146s make 400 watts?
Well, yeah, that's it. You've got 2 6146s for your finals. And they're good for about 120, 150 watts a piece. Or not a piece, a pair. That's how much peak power they should be putting out.
I don't disagree with you one little bit. But, alright. How are we getting there on the O-scope?
I don't know. The other 6146s are the modulator. That's going to add power, but I don't think you could, make the tube put out more than it's capable of putting out. That's like voodoo magic there or something.
I could understand, say, 200 watts peak power at a 50-watt carrier, with 4 6146s. That would all make sense to me. But I'm just telling you what I'm observing. My Heathkit watt meter shows a 100-watt carrier, and it doesn't move anywhere. My MFJ peak reading meter shows around 240, 250 watts of peak power. I have an O-scopes with a sniffer in line, and I got the 2 graduals for carrier. And when I'm modulating right now, I am doing nice round peaks at 4 graduals. 2 out on either side.
Did you get that at Fred's Voodoo Emporium?
Are you running that barefoot now?
I am running the Barker & Williamson barefooted baby. And I get out into Europe like I'm a shortwave radio broadcaster. I've been told that more than once.
So you're not running anything except the radio itself right now?
I ain't nothing but the radio itself.
You're giving me a 9.
I'm telling you, that's why I'm asking you. You're the engineer, and I mean, I'm an engineer, but you know this stuff better than I do. This thing makes stuff that ain't there.
But I mean, you're giving me the same signal you do with the 8 pill.
How cool is that?
Speaking of engineering, I got a question.
Uh-oh.
I'm still trying to get an answer to mine, but go ahead, Tickle.
How hard would it be to build something that runs 4 3500Zs?
You could do it.
Can be done. But you got to remember, whatever power you want out, you have to be able to supply power to.
What would that put out?
You could reasonably get 3K plus.
So multiply that by 4, you're talking 4 kilowatts.
But you'll need about 500 watts to drive it.
And you also need one hell of a power supply.
Well, I think you could probably drive it with 200, because you can drive a pair with 100.
Well, you have to drive it with 100 watt?
Up to 100 watts. It's a 10 dB amp, or tube, I should say. So whatever you put in, you get out 10 times more. So one tube, you put in 20 watts, you get 200. 50 watts, 500. 100 watts, 1,000 watts.
Yeah. The other thing, though, is if you're going to run multiples of a tube, you really have to get a matched set of tubes, or one will pull more than the others.
Sometimes it's easier just to get a... If you want to run 5,000 watts, it's probably easier to get a one bigger tube. One of them ceramic jammies.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, 366, 3000.
That would be what I would do.
Yeah, when you start adding multiples of tubes, it starts getting more complex.
Okay. No, I was the guy on one of the sites was talking about running, I forget, it was like 6 or something, 3500Zs.
So I'm still trying to figure out how I give you the same signal on a pair of 6146s that an 8-pill does.
I don't know where you set your power on that thing when you're running it, but I mean, when you push it really, really hard, you're a little stronger than that. You're on the high side of the 9. But I mean, when you're running in everyday mode, whatever you have that set for when you're driving it, you're doing it now with just the B&W.
Well, my watt meter's not showing what it shows when I'm running that 8-pill. So, like, anything over what it is that I'm running is a waste.
Well, there's the other possibility too that you're making power on that watt meter with that 8-pill that's not on frequency.
Well, yeah, that could also be true. Oh yeah, I forgot I got my PDC meter in line. I wasn't even looking at that. Even my PDC shows 100 swinging to 2.
Yeah, the interesting one is the heat kit meter, because you say it puts out 100 straight and it doesn't move, which means it's perfectly symmetrical. That's what you would get out of an RMS meter. It shouldn't move.
Yeah, it's 100 watts, and it just sits there. It doesn't go either direction, nowhere. Only the the MFJ meter and the PDC meter show any forward movement. But I also have an O-scope with a sniffer, in line. And I got the two graduals, carrier in it, and when I modulate, the peaks go to 2 up and 2 down.
Yeah, and they're perfectly symmetrical because your average reading meter doesn't move, which is what you want. It's not back swinging, so you're producing enough positive power, and your positive and your negatives are equal, so they cancel each other out.
All I know is it seems like when I'm talking to my European buddies on 10 meters AM in the morning, they do hear me just as well as when I'm running the multi-LMAC into the A-pill. And I was kind of amazed at that. And then I actually had stations calling me that I could just about hear.
I'm going to have to try and experiment one of these nights. Transistor power versus tube power. I'm going to have to dig that heat kit out of the pile here and get that running and see what the difference is.
There's got to be something different between high-level plate modulation and transistor power.
Well, your finals are in Class C.
Yeah, your finals are Class C, but it's being modulated.
Yeah, well, yeah, because your 6146s are in Class C, so they're effortlessly putting 100 watts out. You know, where when you use those like in a 530 or an 830 or AB1, you're gonna be ringing them out pretty hard to get a little more than 100. But yeah, you got a 100-watt carrier, and then you're modulating with the other pair on top of it.
Yeah, I'm at a loss to explain exactly why you can get 400 watts of peak power out of that, because it just doesn't seem like that's possible. I mean, four 6146s in parallel, I'd say, yeah, okay, all as RF amps, but not two modulating another two. It's still, you're adding power to it, but I guess it's doing it somehow. I just can't explain how. I guess I'm gonna have to look. I'm gonna have to dig out the books and start looking a little bit.
I wouldn't even question if it was, say, doing 50 watts of carrier and 200 peak. That to me is doable with the tube complement.
Yeah, that's within the realm of believability.
Exactly, and that's kind of what my meters show. But then you throw in the O-scope equation, and well, the O-scope is showing peak power faster than anything else, and that's what it's showing me.
Yeah, it's certainly crystal clear.
So I don't know. Anyway, I'm happy. I am happy. It is back up and running, and I've been working it. 441 countywide radio on this heavy metal antique radio transmitter.
It's definitely not a swinger, though. The meter jiggles just ever so slightly. There's no real swing to it. Not like like guys that have the carrier down and have all this extra forward.
I don't think these. I was watching intently everybody's signal that I was working today. Nobody on 10 meters AM has forward swing on their audio on the S meter. Nobody. It's just like they're there, and they modulate and just sound good.
Well, yeah, because they're symmetrical, just like you are right now. Positive and negative peaks are equal and they cancel each other out, so the end result is a steady signal. And when you get forward swing, your positive peak exceeds your negative, and so you get a little extra boost. And when you do it right, it's called asymmetrical modulation. That's what radio stations do, and it works out really well. When you do it wrong, you hard clip at the negative line and you splatter all over the place.
They do have that mod with a bunch of diodes where you can limit your negative peaks but allow the positive peaks to go up.
Yeah, I tried doing that with diodes and it just doesn't seem to work very well.
Yeah, I'm not that brave to screw around with it.
Some of these solid state rigs you can do a negative peak compression mod. This Galaxy has it done, and this has got like a 6 or almost an 8-to-1 positive, and it's doing its normal 4-to-1 negative.
I just want to turn the gain down on the radio a little bit more. Now my flat line is completely clean. How does that sound?
Completely clean.
That's what I like. Completely clean. Even looks really sharper on the scope. Say that again.
Sniffer.
Tickle.
Back to your British sitcom stuff. I just posted something on your Facebook. You gotta watch it. It's hilarious.
10-4, Roger, right on. Will do. Hey, I got something for you that you can use. It's not what I thought it was, but I think you could probably use it, and then you can slide a sample back my way. But I got this apple pie cocktail additive or whatever for moonshine. So maybe you can make me up a little batch of apple pie.
Kind of ahead of you on that one.
Kind of what?
I'm kind of ahead of you on that one. Well, Dixie is, kind of. We ran a run. She mixed up her flavoring. It's sitting right now, infusing in flavor. We'll be done soon, I hope.
Cool. Make sure you make enough for the summer rally up there in New York. I'd be able to, you know, cover your costs, as it were. Now, I am video gating, so we don't want to get into too much detail. But I do have this, and I will give it to you, because I can't use it. So I know you can. I thought it was actually already apple moonshine, but it just happens to be the stuff to use for apple moonshine. And like, oh, I know who needs this.
10-4, yeah, we can make good use of it.
10-4. Just remind me again, or when we meet again, or gonna meet, just throw it in my head, and I'll make sure you get it.
10-4, yeah, Dixie likes to do it the old-fashioned way with all the, you know, separate ingredients, and then cook it all down and mix it together.
Well, maybe you can try one with this, whatever. I don't know. I know you could do something with it. I can't. So anyway, but yeah, if you can, second weekend after the 4th of July, you ought to go along.
You gotta remind me, you know, and then we're gonna be making all kinds of flavors soon. Yeah, I think, I forget if it's cranberry or blackberry is gonna be next.
It's an entertainingly good time.
We were going to try and do cranberry for the holidays, but it takes a couple of weeks for the flavors to infuse together.
Well, you got just about a little over 6 months.
Yeah, buddy, then the warm weather's back.
Woohoo!
I can't wait for the summer to come back.
I know. I've been thinking about riding my BSA to New York this year, but I have to take some time off and take the long way.
Yeah, that's all you're having. It doesn't fall off on the way back.
I don't want to go on interstate. I'll take US 209.
Oh yeah, up through Dingman's Ferry and Port Jervis and.
Yep, up through the Catskills and just below Albany.
Right in through Orange County.
That's a nice scenic ride.
Takes a little over 6 hours with breaks.
That's the way I go up when I go up to Newburgh, New York, to the auction. About a mile away from Orange County Choppers.
Well, I take the interstate. What is that? 78 and 78 and what is that? 295 or something? What is that goes up through Jersey? And that takes about 4 hours. But if you take 209 and all, that takes 6 or so.
Then you take 78 to 33.
Well, that's a whole nother way. What is that? 81 into Port Jervis, and then, oh heck, up through the New York State Thruway there. 87, is it?
Well, 80 intersects with, 84 does. 84 goes in through Port Jarvis.
Yeah, 84. There's a few different ways to go, but you know, either way, you wind up going up 84 or up the New York State Thruway. You know, it's just below Albany where I go, just outside the Catskills.
I was just saying, you take 78 to 33, and take that up to 209, and take 209 all up the way you were going to go.
Well, I'll actually probably take something like, you know, a mix of roads up 611 to 209 and go that way. I don't want to take that thing on interstates.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's not a highway cruiser.
No, I'll leave a day early in the morning, and if it takes me 8 hours to get there, it takes me 8 hours to get there.
Yeah, you're not in any hurry. Enjoy the scenery.
That's right. I want to go there the old school way. The new school is hop on the Harley and go on the interstate and do 75, 80 miles an hour. And I think I want to do it the old school way.
Yep.
U.S. route, back roads, nothing faster than maybe 65.
Yeah, going up 611 through Easton and all, I'm picking up 209. That's actually a nice cruise too. Up along the Delaware River there, that's full of scenery.
Yeah, my aunt and uncle used to live in Walden, New York, which isn't too far away from Orange County.
Yeah, stop in and see the tunnels.
I actually go up to a place called Albany, New York.
Yeah. It's only the county, or the state seat, I should say.
Well, not Albany, I'm sorry. It's south of Albany. It's Coxsackie. C-O-X. Coxsackie.
Wasaki.
Oh, I know the other town is Athens. Athens is south and Coxsackie is north. They're right in between the two.
Yeah, sounds like one of those North New York podunk towns there.
Athens is right on the Hudson, so it's like you go like 6 or 8 miles to the east, you're on the Hudson, and then go, I don't know, 15 or 20 miles to the west, and you're up in the Catskills.
Yeah, Miracle on the Hudson.
That's a cool place to take a motorcycle ride for a long extended weekend.
Oh, any place that's got a lot of good scenery and some good places to eat, and maybe even a bed and breakfast to stay overnight. That wouldn't be bad at all.
Well, I used to tent and camp every year going up there, but now they've got permanent trailers, and I have my own permanent, quote-unquote, timeshare trailer up there.
Well, that's because you're a veteran of that thing.
I always have a place to unroll my sleeping bag.
There you go. See that? It's good to be part of a group like that.
Well, I told you there, Spitfire. Mine's back together. I just haven't had it out.
You're more than welcome to ride up with me. And I always ride up with at least 2 or 3 or more. And it's a good time. And, if you go up with me, you will have a roof over your head.
Well, before anything like that, I'm going to have to do the carburetor again and get another battery. I know that.
I am a carburetor. What's the word I'm looking for? Carburetor super mechanic. I don't know. They're my specialty, carburetors. And I have dyno jet kit over here parts. So if you want to dyno jet it, I might be able to fix you up.
Oh, 10-4 Roger. Yeah, this ethanol, 10% ethanol fuel just chews the carburetor apart.
Yeah, well, to tune it right, I need the bike. But I mean, I could set it up and then get it on the bike and go from there. But I need the bike. So if you want to come over here in the springtime, we can fool around. I'll get that bitch running right.
I'll bring the whole bike. That don't bother me none. Yeah, I'm still selling another one if anybody looking. $750 for the whole bike. Top end is brand new, never started.
Yeah, I have a friend's 89 Sportster I've been taking care of for the last, I don't know, 15 or 20 years. I've been taking care of her bike. I used to have an 89 Sportster, but it's long gone. But I told her, as long as she don't get married, I'll take care of her bike for her. As long as she keeps her bike. She's single and rides it and don't have anybody to take care of it for her. I told her I'd do her oil changes and any problems that came up. I think you guys seen the pictures on Facebook. I had to rebuild her transmission a couple of years ago because a friggin' part broke in it.
Oh, is that Phyllis?
10-4.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, then you know all about them. Mine's an 88.
Oh yeah, I'm better with the 4 speeds than the 5 speeds, but I can do the 5 speeds too.
I'm not worried about transmission. Transmission's done. Everything inside that transmission pretty much is brand new. Shafts included. Somehow I snapped one in half.
Well, that was more in reference to my specialty of the model than the actual transmission.
10-4. Well, yeah, mine's 4-speed. But yeah, I don't know how I snapped that shaft in half and rode it back from the poor bastard's show.
Bring that bitch over here. I'll fix you right up. Get a pair of drag pipes and a pair of slip-in type baffles. And let me dyno jet your carburetor. I'll have that thing rocking and rolling. There's a certain length you cut them baffles to, and a certain distance you insert them inside the drag pipes with a dyno jet kit, and I know the sweet spot, and then things rock and friggin' roll.
I've already got a set of 2 1/4, I believe, 2 1/4 inch drags on it.
Do you have baffles in it?
No.
You're losing power.
I know. But it's got such a nice tone.
I'm telling you, get a couple of baffles, at least 3 inches long. And when you bring the thing over to tune it, I'll tune your carburetor. A pair of 3-inch baffles, bring them over here, and we'll stick them in there in the right place. And it will not change the sound of it very much at all, but it will change the performance.
Okay. Yeah, mine's still a chain drive bike.
Yeah, I converted mine to belt. Mine was an 89, but Phyllis's, hers is an 89, and it's still a chain on there.
I don't know. I'm just particular about chain. I like chains for some reason. I don't know. I'm not a belt. I'm not a belt guy.
At the time I had my Sportster, I rode too many friggin' miles. I was adjusting chains too friggin' much. It made me crazy. Put the belt on there, set it, and forget it.
I've just seen bad things happen with belts. Now I know belt technology's come a long way, but...
Well, I've had 1, 2, 3, 4 Harleys with belts on for a total of 36, 120, 30... about 180,000, maybe 200,000 miles. Let's say 180,000 miles of belt drive and never had a problem.
Okay. No, I've seen a couple guys shred belts. I don't know.
Yeah, if they're going around doing burnouts all the time.
Well, you know.
That will shred a belt. But if you just drive along, maybe a burnout, you know, a burnout or 2, but not all the time. But just plain drive the shit out of them, I drive the shit out of them. I put 75,000 miles on my Sportster's belt. I put 85,000 miles on a 2001 Ultra's belt. I got 30,000 miles on my belt now on my Ultra. I never broke one.
Wheelies kind of stretch them out a little bit too.
If you abuse anything, it's gonna blow up. Just no. I think that's a sub-course in the 05 Technical Institute.
No, I haven't gotten to that level of the institute yet. I'm still in the entry level.
Chains are cool. Chains if you know are tough. But if you do a lot of high miles, chains stretch, and you're always adjusting a friggin' chain, and they're dirty. They're friggin' dirty. Belts, if you don't abuse them, you set it and forget it, man, and they're clean.
And they ride a lot smoother.
A lot less herky-jerky.
A lot less noise.
Yeah, even that.
And the dirty part, yes, I have a chrome sprocket. I'm always out there having to clean it off.
I mean, my BSA's got chains on it. Let's face it, there's not much I can do about it. But I do like that belt drive for the long distance ride. No fuss, no muss.
No lids, no kids, no space cadets.
Gas, grass, or ass. Nobody rides for free.
It's interesting though, you know, it seems counterintuitive when you're putting more back pressure in by adding baffles and it makes more power. I know, but I know that's always been true with two-strokes because you got tuned exhaust, and that, you know, because you got to scavenge the extra fuel air out of the cylinder. But you know, with a four-stroke, you wouldn't think you'd have to be, it would be that sensitive, but I guess it is to some degree.
Well, see, drag pipes are just what their name says, drag pipes. They work fine if you're running at red line through every gear all the time. But in reality, you are not running red line in every gear all the time. So you throw them baffles in there, and it actually increases your low end and mid range performance. It may sacrifice some top end performance, like microseconds off your quarter mile, but you get a whole lot better streetability.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. It's sort of the same principle as the as a dual plenum manifold versus a single plenum intake manifold on a car. You know, the single plenum is your wide open. You know, at the red line you'll get your most power, but the dual plenum is more drivable at the lower mid range. You get more torque. You know, like around 2 grand instead of at the red line.
And that's really what it's all about, is where do you want to make your power, you know? Are you drag racing and you're redlining all the time? No, you're not. So, you know, let's get some, you know, some of the power and streetability back into the mid-range and the low end, instead of putting it all on the top end where you're rarely going to use it on the street. And you don't sacrifice all that much by building up the bottom and the mid by putting in baffles, you know. If you're going to go drag racing, take a freaking half-inch wrench with you and pull the baffles out.
Well, you put baffles in, it also pulls the torque up.
Well, torque and horsepower kind of run hand in hand.
Oh yeah. Horsepower is just RPM times torque divided by 5250.
Nobody told me there was going to be a math class in this.
Engineering 101, man. Math, everything's math.
I like good hot performance, but I want good streetability.
Bagger, my teacher always told me I would never go anywhere staring out the window. Drive a truck for a living.
Well, you're staring out the same window, but the scenery changes.
That's right. Showed her, didn't I?
There you go.
But yeah, Spitfire, yeah, I got they're 2 1/4-inch drag pipes. I have a hypercharger, you know, the big scoop over the carburetor, you know, hangs out of it.
And I'll make it run like a hot mofo with baffles and a dyno jet kit.
Here's another thing. Maybe you can help me figure out where to pull manifold pressure vacuum, so I can actuate the actuator for the butterflies on the hypercharger.
Take that vacuum advance unit off and toss it.
What vacuum advance?
Well, then use that right there.
Where would there be a vacuum advance on my bike?
They all have vacuum advance. Well, the Evo Sportster years, they got a little port there, running the intake manifold.
I'd have to look. I don't think mine does.
Yeah, it should if it's stock. The intake.
Well, the bike started out life as an 883. It's 1200 now. I don't know if they changed the manifold when they did it, but when I looked to try and figure out where to pull vacuum from, my only thought was to drill a hole and tap it.
Are you running the stock carburetor? Because I think it's actually on the carburetor on the intake side.
It's a Screaming Eagle.
Yeah, well maybe that's why. I think on the stock carburetor has it. Maybe the Screaming Eagle doesn't. I'm trying to remember, but yeah, I think that's where the vacuum advance comes off of.
Yeah, I've got no vacuum ports that I can find. Because the hypercharger actually has a vacuum pod. It was for a big twin, I think. It's got the pod that, you know, the vacuum, as the vacuum pressure builds, it just don't have the butterflies in because I have no vacuum.
Got to drill and tap the manifold.
Everybody fall asleep?
No, I'm still in there.
I'm still here.
Well, I know you are. I just wonder if everybody else fell asleep during Classic Motorcycle Roundup.
No, we did not fall asleep, but it is. Yeah, time to change radios. That's what I done did.
I recall falling asleep on Classic Boat Roundup.
Yeah, where'd Skeeter go?
He's out on his boat. He's probably still working on that tram to get it going.
That tram, well, you posted a picture of that. That thing's a cream puff.
Before I saw it.
That thing looks good. You better get that working. That's a radio to keep.
Was that 27E?
Yeah, the predecessor to the Titan.
Okay, radios switched.
I'm still on my same big old heavy metal AM radio transmitter.
And we're still hi-fiing.
Yeah, high fidelity. It's working. It's like a blast off.
You guys just like listening to yourself.
That's right. When we do listen to ourselves, it's on Spew Radio.
Live, worldwide.
On Spew Radio.
The After Hours edition.
Yes, that's right. During the 10 o'clock hour of Classic Radio Roundup is brought to you by the 05 Institute of Technical Excellence, where our motto is, if you can buy it, we can blow it up.
Also this hour brought to you by Fred's Discount Voodoo Emporium, sole importer of Grandma Jemima's ganja dipped stainless steel voodoo doll needles. So if you want them dead, go and see Fred.
Where specifications are subject to change without notice.
Yeah, open 24/7.
May not be available in your state. Please check local and state laws for availability.
Terms and conditions will apply.
Please check local paper for listings and times.
Blackouts may apply.
Hurry now. Supplies are limited. Quantities are limited.
And we don't take checks, cash only.
No checks. In God we trust.
$99.95. Pay any color. $99.95.
That's right, in God we trust. All others pay cash.
Hurry now. Includes free shipping.
They want supply blast.
The first 50 callers will get free shipping. Call now. The first 50 callers get free shipping. Call now.
And if you pay shipping and handling twice, we'll give you another one.
That's not one. That's two. 2 sets of stainless steel ganja voodoo doll needles from Fred's Voodoo Discount Emporium.
Shipping and handling charges may apply.
And if you call now during the month of December, just in time for Christmas holiday, we will include 1 jar of Deer Tick ointment with every purchase of ganja dip needles.
So call now. Your one and only source for stainless steel ganja dipped voodoo doll needles from Grandma Jemima.
Operators are standing by. This is a collect call.
Long distance charges and interstate and international rates may apply.
Oh, God.
I got nothing.
I hope it ain't contagious.
I'll tell you what. I got some snow on the ground over here. Anybody else got snow still?
That would be a big 10-4 over here in the volcano crater. Snow is on the ground, but it's like dust.
The roads were dry, and that was it. I haven't seen anything since.
Yep, it's a winter wonderland.
Parking lots are white, grass is white, roads are clear.
Yep, I got white dust over here.
And I got salt trucks going through.
I got nothing. You ain't gonna do nothing. I don't have any nothing.
You ain't gonna do nothing.
It's going to wrap back around. I was looking at the radar. It is going to wrap back around and get us again.
For hours and hours, dude.
Yeah, that's what they said. It's gonna be off and on snow squalls here and there, and you might get a dusting here and there.
You know, those are actually kind of cool at this time of year. I don't mind getting snow squalls and seeing snowflakes in the air. You know, it's getting near Christmas, give you that Christmassy feeling. As long as it don't add up to nothing.
Well, if it's going to add up to anything, add up to something significant. Not, you know, these just couple nuisance snow inches.
I actually don't mind it constantly snowing in the air as long as it don't accumulate to nothing. Now, if we're going to have any accumulation, I want a foot or more.
Yeah, snow a foot or don't snow at all.
Agreed.
Yeah, what with that 13 feet of snow and all?
I would have looked out the window when they got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and say, there's a foot of snow outside, I'm not going to work today.
I don't know if I'd want what they got on upstate New York a couple of weeks ago.
I like last year where my dad's reading the weather report at 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. saying, yeah, up to 3 inches of snow today. And Vince Yezzi comes in for his 12 o'clock show and says, well, you better throw that in the trash can. There's already a foot of snow on the ground.
Oh.
I was in Center City at lunchtime when I got told to bring it back that day.
Yeah, they may end up with 3 or 4 inches up the mountains.
Yeah, thank God for Wawa being open 24 hours.
They do it just a little bit better.
Yeah, my Wawa needs a generator, though.
Sell them one with an installation package.
Something.
Does the Wawa lose power frequently?
Yes, sir.
So why is that? Do they just have a really bad electrical infrastructure there? Trees fall down on power lines or what?
Yeah, we got antiquated infrastructure over this way, and it goes out, and then they can't pump fuel. They should make those places have that in the code, the building code. If you're going to supply fuel, you got to have a generator.
That's a new Wawa, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they probably don't know how to run the damn thing.
It's hard to run something when there's no power.
No, they don't have one. They're jammed in a corner there.
Wawas have the backup generators.
Yeah, this one doesn't. The one down by you think does?
Yeah.
Sparky.
I could see it where the law would require you to have a generator if you pump fuel, but the EPA would say, nope, you can't run it because your area, you're under smog protection.
Yeah, you got too many ppms. Yes, sir.
You really ought to, throw a deal at them. Set them up with a generator and switch gear and the installation, make some money.
Can I get the bread and milk? Bread and milk.
Milk and bread, Ron. We need the milk and bread.
It's the French toast ingredients that you need.
Damn French toast.
I never laughed my ass off so bad when I saw that.
It's the French toast. You need eggs, milk, and bread. You got that, you'll live.
And scrapple.
Oh,
Bacon.
A whole big block of it.
None of that. Pork roll. And it's got to be Taylor pork roll.
yeah.
Yeah, no relation.
Give me some Spam.
Give me Taylor pork roll. No relation.
Taylor pork roll. I agree.
You must have stock in that company.
But there was something.
Oh, I hear number 7.
Good evening, Tom, Channel 13.
Hey, number 7, thanks again. Hello, number 7.
Right back. I heard you, Pete. I heard you, Dave. I heard everybody else. No doubt about it. On number 7, firing up this cold wagon on this cold Wednesday night.
Hello, number 7.
You got snow where you are there, 7?
Hey, it's just flying. Come on, this is wuss weather.
Yeah, you got that right.